VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. Little Shop of Horrors Highlights. Hosted by Amy Amantea. With special guest, J.J. Hunt.
Welcome to the VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director for VocalEye. I'm your host for these Almost Live events, and I'm a proud member of our community. And I want to take a moment just to thank those in the community and those who are allies of the community who have supported this virtual platform for these 99 episodes, almost 100 episodes, through making donations and through writing lovely testimonials. So if you have the capacity, we post a donation link in the chat, but keep those testimonial letters coming. We very much appreciate them. They're super helpful in terms of letting our funders know the impact that the programming is having on our community, but also I just like to hear from y'all. So please share away. If you happen to be watching this episode on our YouTube channel, we want you to hover over to those like and subscribe buttons and click away. So friends, know this evening I'm having some technical difficulties myself. My camera is not functioning. So you are going to see, if you are seeing anything at all, a lovely green colored, I don't know, some kind of screen, which is fun, but fitting for a Halloween episode. VocalEye's broadcasting to you all from the traditional and stolen lands of the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Peoples. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of some oral history that I was recently reading about the Musqueam people. For generations, the elders have explained how the peoples were made in the very beginning, right? How human beings started, and that they were not all, air quotes, altogether right at the beginning. It was like they had no teachings. So some of them were right and some of them weren't right. During these times, it is said that the Delta River was only water and Point Roberts was just an island. The one that they call the Transformer arrived, and he took pity on the people and began traveling alongside them and helping them. The people and the creatures that were not right were taught. They were taught empathy and charity, forgiveness, compassion, and the importance of sharing the land. The Transformer left his teachings with these peoples and everywhere that he walked, and these teachings grew into Musqueam law. Many who refused to learn these teachings were turned into stone and into other animals. These travels and transformations are written in the earth and captured in Musqueam ancient histories and oral histories, and recorded as place names all throughout Vancouver. So this is a little bit of oral history of how the first people came to be, through the storytelling and the oral history of the Musqueam people, and how their laws began with the Transformer who came and took people who were, quote, not right and turned them into loving, empathetic community members. I was really touched to read that, and a lot of times when I read some of these oral histories that go back for generations and generations and generations, I think, gosh, if we were thinking about these things in modern times, we would probably be more loving society to each other. So there's a lot that we can, I think, learn from these kinds of oral histories. Well, welcome to Wednesday, October the 26th, 2022. Today, we're proud to offer you our Almost Live event number 99. 99. We're moving into the 3 digits next week, folks. Tonight, we're offering the Little Shop of Horrors with our special guest in the space, J.J. Hunt. So welcome, J.J. J.J. has a camera on.
Hello.
And I have a green square. I'm going to reference this many times because I just feel awkward. And just so y'all know, I have this hat that nobody can see. One, because I don't have a camera on, but two, if I didn't, I'd still describe it to you. So it's a headband, and it's a witch's hat on the top. And the witch's hat is made out of black sequins, but they're those kind of sequins that when you move them, they change colors. So it goes from black to gold. You can hear my sequins in my microphone. So I am wearing my hat even though my camera is not on. It is proudly on my head. So just so you know, I'm not sitting here in my pajamas or anything. Wearing my hat. JJ, how are you? Welcome from the future.
I am well. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. We're making lemonade with our technical difficulties, but that's a life of Zoom and online stuff. So yeah.
That's excellent. Actually, my eldest one year went to Value Village for their Halloween costume, and
Yes.
they found a yellow suit, a fully bright like banana yellow suit with a yellow tie, and they found a yellow bowler, and they said, "I want to buy this for Halloween," and we're like, "Okay, go ahead." So they bought it for Halloween, and then they got a silver tray, and they went to the dollar store and bought like a bunch of plastic lemons, and they
Uh-huh.
glued all of the lemons onto this tray in a fancy little service. And we said, "What are you?" And he said, "I'm life. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." And
Oh, I
this
love
was their shtick. This is what they did. They would wait for someone to ask every door they went to, "What are you?" And they'd say, "I'm life. When life gives you lemon." He did this little like jazz hand song, and like, there
Oh
you
my
go.
gosh.
So
I that's not where I thought you were gonna go with that. I love that. I was getting a Jim Carrey reference somehow
oh
in
yeah,
my
yeah,
mind, like from The Mask or
I
something. He
could
had
see
these
that.
bright
Yeah.
colored suits. So
I don't
maybe
know what yellow suit. I mean, where did this thing even come from? My goodness.
maybe it's something that your oldest will be able to repurpose for Halloweens to come.
Yeah, I mean, it
Be
would
a
be.
highlighter one year.
Yeah, they're now 6 feet tall. That's a
Oh,
pretty small. They've gone through a ridiculous growth spurt, so it would be short pants now. It's a short pants suit.
that's hilarious. I mean, one of the things about going to Value Village, because I used to hunt all the time for Halloween costumes, but
Yeah,
I would never find anything that fit. Like, it'd be, that's really cool. Like the yellow suit, that's so cool. Doesn't fit me. Like that
that's
was the
right.
story of my life.
Yeah, yeah. My closet is full of what I call aspirational clothing, stuff that I bought from Value Village. It's like, "Oh, I'm only 10 pounds off of that. I'll be good.
One day I'll get into it.
One day I'll be fine."
Oh, yes, I have a closet like that too, but it's stuff that I used to wear that I think one day I'll get back to that. One
Exactly.
day. And then at some point I think I'm just gonna have to purge it. But
Yeah,
I'm
that's it.
not there yet.
Totally.
I'm
Yeah,
not there.
acknowledge who we are in the now, in the
Yeah.
present.
And
Yeah,
then who
love
we
this
are is
person.
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. Um yeah, it's kind of funny. I had some really nobody needs to know this stuff, but I had some really really small clothing from when I was much smaller. And I was going through it the other day and I was like, huh, this would fit my mother. My mother weighs 90 pounds and is 4 foot 11. And I was like, hey, you want some of my so this is like me giving my mother some clothes from high school, which are like in great shape, really cool. But I was like, how was I ever that small? Because
Yeah, yeah.
like I can't fit an arm in this shirt anymore, it was hilarious.
Nice. So your mom's like walking around in nice, like, what, Wham t-shirts, or like, what was your fashion in high school like, Amy?
My fashion in high school was I didn't have Wham t-shirts. That a
That's
little
my
before my
vintage, not
time.
yours, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I may have had a New Kids on the Block t-shirt, but what I was revisiting from my high school days, to be honest, was I was goth for a lot of those high
Oh
school
yeah.
years. So not goth as in white face paint or anything, but I wore a lot of fishnets and a lot of like combat boots, things like that.
Nice.
Goth steampunk. That was my vibe, and I wore it well. I wore it
I bet
well.
you did.
I did. I did. So yeah, those were the good old days. Those were the good old days.
And now your mom's a goth. Now your
Now
mom's
I'm
walking around in
they're
combat
like,
boots.
this is a lovely black lacy thing. You should have it. She's like, yeah, it is quite lovely. It's like, take it. Yeah, it's a kind of a funny thing when that happens. So I don't know that you're going to be fitting into any banana yellow suits these days.
No, 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 not anymore.
Yeah. Well, what are we here to experience tonight, JJ? We got some Little Shop of Horror stuff happening.
Yes, Little Shop of Horrors. This is such a fun musical. We're going to be talking about primarily the 1986 film version, but Little Shop has been a play. It's been a legendary, like, black and white B movie. Moved from off Broadway to Broadway, and then moved on to the big screen. Rick Moranis, just a slew of juicy little parts and cameos. It's such a fun musical. I'm telling you, I've loved spending time in this last couple of weeks watching it, rewatching it, showing it to my kids. The kids and I had a screening of this musical. It's just so much fun. Is this a musical that was in your, like, did you know this play, this musical, this film?
I knew it anecdotally, but
Mm.
I have actually never seen it.
Oh man, you
Uh,
are in for a treat
I
tonight.
know. So
Oh,
I have been holding off on watching it until after this because I want all the descriptive stuff because I'm sure it's probably not going to be available with description.
no, in fact, I had a really hard time finding it here in Canada. I couldn't
Yeah,
find like an easy to download, like even on a lot of places like YouTube where you can rent movies, or Apple TV where you can rent. For some reason, it wasn't available for rent in Canada. It's
interesting.
been a little trickier to find. So I think this walkthrough tonight that we're going to do, describing it kind of scene by scene, along with the songs that are available that we're going to be listening to and watching clips of, from YouTube. I think this is going to be probably the best, most comprehensive, description experience you're going to get of this musical. So I'm really happy to be part of sharing it, because it's such fun. It's such a good musical.
And it's timely for Halloween. Why is it timely, JJ?
Well, Little Shop of Horrors. So the basic plot of the film, it's the story of this nerdy, down on his luck flower shop employee in like the 1960s. It's a kind of late 50s, early 60s vibe. And this flower shop employee discovers a strange and interesting plant with very dark appetites. And the plant grows in size and grows in notoriety, bringing success, for him, for his flower shop, and for his secret love, Audrey. And it brings enough success he's hoping it's going to take them off of Skid Row. But it's a charming musical, but it's a little bit dark in tone in moments. It's mostly campy and fun, but yes, the dark appetites, the kind of, hmm, slightly evil. I mean, I don't want to give too much away right off the bat, but
Yeah.
this plant has a, yeah, it's got a mind of its own, and takes the story in a different direction, away from the campy, to the, something that's a little bit more horror film. It's this is a classic, like Broadway, off Broadway musical combined with a B movie kind of vibe. Amazing performances, beautiful design, really fun and memorable songs, and some outstanding puppetry. The plant in this, which is a central character, this plant, Audrey 2, is all done with puppets, practical puppets, no CGI. And it's just amazing puppetry. So yeah, lots to talk about, lots to describe, and some good, campy B movie horror elements too.
Oh, that it's I'm so excited about this, especially I love anything that uses puppetry.
Mm,
I love because I there is something that is for me really beautiful about that art form. You know, like I think
yeah,
about just as like, like off the cuff example, Star Wars then and Star Wars now,
yeah,
right? And Star Wars now is all full of CGI, and that, you know, may be great for some people, but I'm still like, oh, Jabba the Hutt does a puppet, and you know, Ewoks
yeah.
were like costumes, and there was something so wonderful and magical
Oh,
about that.
absolutely. Yeah. When Yoda went in the first few
Yeah,
movies, Yoda was a puppet. And then I think it was the second movie in the second set, whatever it was,
yeah,
the prequels, where they switched to CGI. And there was a loss.
yeah, yeah,
Having Yoda not be a puppet enabled him to let him fight and, use a lightsaber and all sorts of fantastic things, but he wasn't real anymore. He
yeah,
wasn't tangible, he wasn't practical, and there
yeah.
wasn't the same kind of emotional connection. And that's what's amazing about this. I mean, this puppet is at times goes from being a single one-handed puppet to a puppet that requires, no joke, 60 puppeteers to work at one time. The growth of this puppet, this plant in this film over the course of the film is incredible. The puppetry is top tier. The movie was directed by Frank Oz.
Uh-huh.
Legendary puppeteer and filmmaker, worked the Sesame Street. Jim Henson, voice of Miss Piggy, I think, is Frank Oz.
And wasn't he the voice of Yoda too?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, Frank Oz is the perfect director for this film. And he really wanted to maintain the sense of the fantastic, right? And
Mhm.
inspire the suspension of disbelief that theater seems to conjure. Like it's a very specific, it's a very particular thing in theater where you let yourself go. You believe in the fantastical. You believe that anything can happen on this stage, not because it looks so exactly perfect and real, but because you buy in. And
Yeah.
so Frank Oz wanted that experience for this film. So he made the very intentional decision to film the entire movie indoors on sets. So they could have found a street, because this takes place in New York, Skid Row. They could have just gone to a New York street and filmed there. They could have found an actual flower shop to film in, but they didn't. They actually wanted to maintain the look of a Broadway musical set. So they built in a huge studio. They built 1960s Skid Row, a typical New York downtown neighborhood street.
Mhm.
Old brownstone houses, iron fire escapes, neighborhood shops with the names hand painted onto plate glass windows, tattered awnings hanging over the sidewalks. They wet the roads. They have garbage strewn sidewalks and gutters. And they even built an elevated subway train that would go through this fake neighborhood. And then for the backgrounds, they used oil paintings, just like the kind of backdrop that you would find on a Broadway or off Broadway stage.
Mhm.
So it all kind of looks like a seedy version of Sesame Street. It's really wonderful. It's really effective, and it helps the audience. Like an audience that's taking this movie and visually, it helps that audience suspend disbelief, not because it looks so real that you're tricking your brain. Like that's the CGI version. It looks so real that you hope your brain is tricked into thinking that it is real. But that's not what they do here. Instead, it looks playful. It looks like make believe, where anything can happen, and where like dramatically singing whatever you feel seems totally appropriate, and where
Right.
monstrous puppets are allowed to exist. That's what this does by creating this very tangible, very real, very theatrical movie.
Awesome. Well, let's like get into the nuts and bolts of some of this stuff because there's lots of things to describe and some songs to listen to, and um so let's start the show, JJ.
Awesome. I am happy to. So, okay. So, I mean, I've already just gone and started to ramble on and talk about the look of the set. Skid Row, this downtown New York Skid Row, is where everything takes place. A down on its luck neighborhood where everything is really sad. Everyone is grumpy and just going through this, slogging through their days and whatnot. There's another really interesting kind of theatrical element, that when they transferred this movie from stage to screen, they kept to the chorus. And the chorus, like I'm talking like an ancient Greek chorus, which is kind of unusual to bring an ancient Greek chorus style into a modern movie. And there's lots of different ways to use a Greek chorus, but here in this movie, in Little Shop, the chorus exists slightly outside of the story. So the chorus is three young women who have knowledge of how people are feeling and what's going to happen in the future. They can observe the story unfolding and then comment on it by speaking or singing directly to the audience. So they kind of act as narrator.
Mhm.
They kind of act as transition from one scene to another. The chorus will pop up. But because this musical takes place in 1960s Skid Row, New York, the chorus is like three Motown backup singers. These three Black teenage girls named Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon, named after actual Motown girl groups of the day. And each one of these performers plays dual roles. So they are in the story as regular sassy teenage girls dressed in regular clothes and, no makeup or anything like that, just parts of characters in the story. And in those roles, they can interact with some of the other characters, but then when they act as the chorus, they are suddenly transformed, and they're dressed in these backup singer gowns with, like, with gloves and pearls and stage makeup and hairdos and glamorous wigs, and they do synchronized dances, and they look at us through the camera, commenting on the story. It's really interesting, and like a fun little visual detail just to illustrate how the filmmakers managed to keep them separate from the story. In one of the opening numbers, it's raining on the street. It's raining on Skid Row, but the rain doesn't land on Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon because they are outside of the story.
Yeah.
So everything else is wet. Everything else is being rained on. But during the filming of it, they created a huge screen, basically an umbrella big enough to cover all three of them. And so they never get wet. Everything else gets wet, but not the chorus. Really interesting.
That is totally interesting. Hey,
Yeah.
how do they do rain on a set?
So basically they have hoses. There are different kinds of hoses that they can use that have, different holes all the way along so that it can just rain in a straight line. Sometimes they just, if it's just raining on a window, all they have to do is pour the water on the window. But, these sets, if they're built indoors and it has to rain, they actually have to build something like a gutter system. Like they have to build like a miniature sewer system so that when the rain comes in, it actually gets washed somewhere. So
yeah, you're not standing in puddles for the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your
Exactly.
equipment getting wet and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Totally.
I always imagine it like a sprinkler system, kind of.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
in the ceiling.
Yeah, it depends on what they need. If it's a big rain for a whole street, something like a sprinkler, something that's got lots of different spigots. If it's just one window, one small area, they can do it. It's a little bit tighter. But here, it's all of Skid Row is getting rained on.
One of the things I thought, this is not a Little Shop of Horror reference, but I think maybe people find it interesting that when they break through any character in any movie, when you break through a window, right? Your character's being thrown through a window or you punch a hole in a window, that the glass that's in the window is actually candy.
Yeah.
It's made, it's sugar. Yeah.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that because this movie was filmed in 1986 and they didn't have all of the same tech that they have now. And there was a famous scene where Steve Martin, who's in this film, kicks open a pair of doors and the doors swing open, and then they do that thing. Sometimes, they bounce off the wall and then start to close again.
Yeah.
And so he puts out his hands to stop the doors from closing in again. And one of they've got windows in the doors.
Yeah.
And he punched right through one of the actual glass windows, and he cut his hand in the middle of filming. They had to stop filming for the day. He had to go to the hospital, get stitches, because they didn't yet have that technology.
They
weren't yet doing the candy glass.
Isn't that interesting?
That's so funny that you mentioned that.
And I haven't seen the movie, so there you go. This is like the universe transporting stuff into my brain. So, how do you want to do this, JJ? We've got some images. Have you got some more setup for us, or do you want to just jump into some of these images and then?
Yeah, why don't we talk about the characters? Break down the characters with pictures of each of the main characters. Shall we do that?
Let's do that. Yeah. So we're gonna bring up on the screen our first image.
All right. Okay. So here we have Seymour. Seymour, the lovable Seymour, played by the one and only Rick Moranis, a good old Canadian boy. Rick Moranis, known for his roles on SCTV. He was Bob of Bob and Doug McKenzie. He was in the Ghostbusters, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Rick Moranis is just wonderful. And he is the perfect nerdy dweeb, right? He is a short white man. He's got thick plastic rimmed glasses. He often has his eyebrows kind of knit, and he's got these very wide eyes that make him seem perpetually perplexed, always one step behind. And he's got this very full lower lip, which kind of adds to his dopiness. In the picture we've got here, he's just wearing a collar shirt, but for much of the beginning of the movie, he's actually wearing a slightly small brown zip-up sweater vest over a brown and white patterned collar shirt. Like he's
drab.
Just such a dork. Yeah, very drab. A lot of the colors on Skid Row very, very drab, very, very bland. Everything's browns and it's dirty, and that's a big part of the visuals of Skid Row. I should also mention, so in the photo we've got up here, Seymour is holding the plant, and this is kind of plant stage 2. It's grown a little bit, and it's in a pot, like a terracotta pot, and it's got a stem, and then the plant is growing out of it, out of this stem. Yeah, so I don't want to over describe Audrey to the plant too much, because it's the way it grows is part of the film. But basically, it's got these cabbage-like leaves, thick vines that spill out over the rim of the flower pot, and it's kind of like an egg-shaped flower head, and that flower head can tip forward and then open and close like a clamshell, like a set of jaws. I heard it described by a designer as an anthropomorphic cross between a Venus flytrap and an avocado. Um, I thought that was pretty good. And so in this version, in the picture that we've got on screen right now, it's probably the plant is maybe 1 foot, 1.5 feet tall. And so the avocado here is maybe the size of a cantaloupe. So, and
Okay.
we'll leave it at that for Audrey 2. We'll describe Audrey 2 more as the movie goes on.
Okay. Getting the
Shall we
vibe.
move on to Audrey 1?
Audrey 1. Who's a human, right?
Audrey 1 is a human. Audrey is Seymour's love interest. Audrey is a woman who works in the flower shop with him, played by the wonderful Ellen Green. Ellen Green actually was the very first Audrey in the first off-Broadway production. So she did the part off-Broadway, wasn't cast when they moved the play to Broadway, but then when they did the film version, she got the part, and she's just wonderful. She's sweet and lovable. She's a ditzy blonde with a heart of gold. Now, it's important to note that all of the characters in this play are exaggerated. They're exaggerated stereotypes of musical stereotypes and B-movie stereotypes. So all of them, they lean in. So Seymour's not just a little bit of a dork, he's a total dweeb. Audrey is sweet and lovable, but she's ditzy. Audrey has this really high, airy voice and kind of lispy quality to it.
Mhm.
And it makes for a really amazing contrast when she opens up and sings, because she can sing. She's got this amazing voice. So it's an interesting, when she flits back and forth, it's quite something. Audrey, a thin but curvy white woman, very light skin tone, wears a lot of makeup, blue eyeshadow, red lipstick. She wears her blonde hair in what I think is called an inverted bob. So bangs across the front, and then the rest of her blonde hair curled up and under at about kind of chin length. It's kind of a helmet of blonde hair. I'm fairly certain this is a wig. And she's costumed in skin tight painted on dresses throughout. And they all have very low necklines that show off the dedicated work of her very impressive push-up bra. And that's how she's dressed the entire film. And they make jokes. She makes jokes throughout the movie about her beautiful clothing. And yeah. So she's that's the lovely Audrey, played by Ellen Green.
Audrey 1.
Audrey 1.
Audrey
Yes,
1.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
Seymour names the plant after
After his love interest.
her. That's
Yeah.
right. And then there's Mr. Mushnick.
Mr. Mushnick. I just love
So
the sound
Mr.
of the name.
Mushnick, yeah, it's a great name. Mr. Mushnick is played by actually an Academy Award nominated actor, Vincent Gardenia. He's a stocky, middle-aged white man with a mustache, double chins, always in this disheveled suit. So jacket off, vest sometimes unbuttoned, his tie is always loosened. He's always a little bit sweaty. Got these greasy locks of his hair, his graying hair kind of hanging down over his forehead. Big expressions, big, the voice goes up and down, and it's again a very exaggerated take on a shop owner on Skid Row. And he's the one who owns the shop, who runs the shop, the flower shop. he kind of we're told early in the story that he took Seymour in when Seymour was just a little orphan, and Mr. Mushnick took him in and cared for him. But it also sounds like he kind of turned him into just his little servant boy a little bit. So we're not entirely sure if Mr. Mushnick is a good guy or a bad guy, or
Right.
is he sort of a nasty, nice guy, I guess, maybe. But yeah, Mr. Mushnick runs the flower shop, employs both Audrey and Seymour.
Okay, Mr. Mushnick.
Mr. Mushnick. And then there's the dentist, Oren Scrivello, DDS. And this is just one of those fantastic roles. Steve Martin, I'm sure, jumped at the opportunity to play this part. Steve Martin, great character, well, great actor, great comedian, and again, just really leans into the absurdity of this motorcycle riding sadistic dentist. Like, how often in your life as an actor does someone come to you and say, okay, we need you to be like an Elvis sadist dentist? I mean, it's such a bizarre character. The chorus at one point calls him the leader of the plaque, which I've always liked. Completely absurd, completely over the top performance. He is a tall, somewhat lanky white man. Here he wears a black Elvis style wig, so kind of a bit of a pompadour up front. It kind of, hangs down onto his forehead. Of course, this is all the more hilarious because Steve Martin is well known to have white hair.
White
He has had
hair.
white hair for a very long time. So Steve Martin in this black Elvis wig, it's just automatically funny. It just makes it funny right off the bat. He's often dressed, even when he's in his dentist shop, even when he's performing a root canal, he's wearing black leather motorcycle boots, black pants, and over his white dentist shirt, he sometimes pulls on a black leather apron to perform oral surgery. So like very much playing up on the sadism, the kind of S&M side of his character. And he has this really ridiculous relationship with this motorcycle. Whenever he gets off of his motorcycle, he jumps off while the motorcycle is moving and then glares at the motorcycle, and it stops all on its own. Like even the motorcycle's a little bit afraid of Dr. Oren Scrivello, DDS. Yeah. So pretty absurd. And then we don't have a picture of them. We've already talked about them, but the chorus, Chiffon and Crystal and Ronette, again, the three black women. I did want to note these backup singers are the only people of color that are seen in this story.
Yeah.
This, despite the fact that it is a story being told from downtown New York City. And this is one of those things that sticks out to a 2022 audience that might not have been as noticeable, frankly, embarrassingly for us in 1986. But it is worth noting that these backup singers who exist slightly outside of the story are the only people of color that we see in this movie, which is just an interesting little note, just something to keep in mind.
Yep. I appreciate that little note because it's something that I am always wanting my description to identify so that I don't live in a white bubble. And still some describers when I watch TV stuff are just, the blonde haired woman. And it's like, that's not enough information.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very true. So I did want to flag that, there is there's the voice of a black man later on, but these are the only characters that we get to see who are played by people of color, really.
Okay. Well, I'm already thinking about next Halloween, and it's like, maybe we got to do a little Sweeney Todd, because I'm getting almost a little Sweeney Todd vibe from this in some ways.
Oh, that's a good one, Sweeney Todd. Write that one down, someone. That's a good one.
Anyways, that's the hamster moving in my brain really fast, right? Yeah. Okay. Well,
so shall we start kind of storytelling our way through this film?
I'm excited.
Awesome. All right. So we start with our introduction to the world of the movie, right? The song is Little Shop of Horrors. It plays over the opening credits. Little Shop of Horrors as a song is kind of like the 1980s take on a 1960s girl group Motown song. The chorus, the three women, they strut and they dance through the downtown Skid Row set. And this is the set I've already described. You know, everything's dirty, everything's browns and you know, brick reds. It's raining on the beat up 1950s cars. This is a very classic thing. If the movie takes place in the early 60s and it's in a poor neighborhood, the cars are going to be from the 1950s
Yeah.
because they're old, right?
Nobody
So
can update them. Yeah.
exactly. So even though it takes place in the 60s, a lot of the aesthetic is in the 50s. It's people kind of, you know, tromping down the street, holding soggy newspapers overhead to try and keep dry. Everyone who is in this scene, like there are people who are, you know, lying on the streets, sleeping on the streets, people who are kind of you know, shuffling in and out of their houses and subway entrances. Everyone's kind of everyone's just unhappy. And the chorus, they're singing from fire escapes, and they dance down alleyways and into the street. They strut through Mr. Mushnick's flower shop. This is how we get introduced to not only the street but the flower shop, is because the chorus kind of leads us through the flower shop. It's got dull peeling beige paint, empty shelves, old wooden furniture, dirty with age and neglect. They then strut down this rickety wooden staircase into the cellar of the plant shop. And this is where Seymour has a cot. This is where Seymour's living. He's got pictures of plants cut from magazines taped to the bare stone walls. And then when the song ends, when the you know, the title song, Little Shop of Horror, ends, Audrey enters the shop from her apartment across the street. So Audrey lives in across the street. She runs very, you know, quick little steps with her high heels across the street, and she's got a black eye that's unconvincingly covered up with her makeup. And Mr. Mushnick kind of yells at her for sticking with this no good boyfriend of hers. And Seymour keeps knocking things over. He keeps dropping, you know, plants and breaking pots, and Mr. Mushnick yells at him. So everything is starting off really low. Everyone is down on their luck, in the gutter. And this is all driven home by the musical number Downtown, or sometimes called Skid Row. This is performed by those neighborhood residents who are shuffling down the wet street in their drab clothes, wearily marching in unison to the beat of the song, always unsmiling. And that's contrasted by the chorus, Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon. They're wearing these matching bright pink dresses and lavender gloves and strings of pearl. And then Seymour and Audrey join into the song, but not together. They join in separately. They're each telling their own story, one verse at a time, and they're unaware of each other. And there are a couple of really good musical tropes that are at play here. First of all, this company of fed up citizens of Skid Row, they don't do a lot of dancing. They're mostly stomping and shuffling and whatever, but they're always in unison. And they do this one fantastic, very Broadway, I don't know if it's a Bob Fosse move, but it's a very Broadway move, where as a group, they all stop on the street, turn to the camera, so they turn to us, and they stomp one heel in unison, just one. Boom, boom, boom. And it's a great visual. It's a great way to convey a group's anger, frustration, and built up tension. This one heel stomp, stomp, stomp. You see it all the time in choruses where they want you to understand that the whole group is suffering, the whole group is angry. The other great musical trope is this having two characters that are separately going through the same set of experiences, but they're unaware of each other. And the way they convey this is by having them go through similar movements, but they're separate. So they each sing and act things out separately. So, you know, Seymour is sweeping the shop, Audrey's taking out the garbage. Then they both stride down the sidewalks in separate verses, singing their angst and desires. And then at the end of the song, they actually end up just a few feet from each other, but they're on either side of a downtown corner. So they don't see each other. They're not aware of each other. Even though they're singing a duet together, they're unaware of the other. That's one of those classic musical tropes. So that's the song Downtown or Skid Row. So why don't we start there? It's a great way that they do a fantastic job of setting up the scene, the place. Everyone just tells you how they feel. This is the kind of the big opening number of the song, Skid Row.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
Big, big, big number.
That was fun.
That's not great. Lots of different voices in there. Were you able to pick out the kind of Audrey voice and the Seymour voice in that singing their separate verses one at a time, Amy?
Yeah, it's clear to me because the rest of it was mostly chorus, right? So the two solo singers, are going to be our Seymour and our Audrey. But I just again, one of those tangent things for me. Rick Moranis has never been a singer in my mind. I don't think he's like a classically trained singer. And I remember Bob and Doug McKenzie when they did their 12 Days of Christmas.
That's right. The 12 Beers of Christmas.
The 12 Beers of Christmas, right? That was hilarious. But so totally. I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, even though he's not like a really classically trained singer, it fits the character.
It does. It's really interesting. And everyone else is a Broadway style singer. Like there are a lot of big voices in this. And he's a very nice singer. He's put out some albums. He's put out some like bluegrassy kind of stuff. He did an album recently called like My Mother's Brisket or something like that, and other Jewish songs. I think it's My Mother's Brisket and Other Jewish songs. He's a really interesting guy, and can sing, but he's not the Broadway kind of, he doesn't have that voice, but you're right. It fits the character perfectly.
Yeah.
So we get the big number, we get introduced to the visuals of the street. A lot of the background characters that are in that number we'll never see again because they're just the people in the street. They're literally the background. But we do get introduced to the idea who Seymour is, who Audrey is, and how they just want to get off of Skid Row. We go back to the flower shop and we get a quick montage of Mr. Mushnick and Seymour and Audrey in their very drab, empty store. And they're just killing time because not a single customer has stepped through the door. Mr. Mushnick finally declares he's done. He's going to close up the shop for good. And then Audrey encourages Seymour to go and get that strange and interesting plant that he's been tinkering with in the cellar. So he hurries downstairs and he collects this little plant in an old tin can. And he tells her and he tells Mr. Mushnick that he has named this plant Audrey 2 or Tui. And when he gets the plant and brings it into the shop from the cellar, we actually get a really interesting point of view shot. It's one of the few times they use this in the movie. So it's as if we're climbing the stairs and entering the store being held in Seymour's arms. We're getting the point of view of the plant, which is unusual because plants don't usually have a point of view, right? It's a little bit of interesting, foreshadowing using the camera work here. So Seymour says, hey, maybe they should put this strange and interesting plant in the window to attract some new customers. And he demonstrates by putting Audrey 2, which at this point is the plant that's about the size of the avocado, right? He puts it in the window and Mr. Mushnick tells him he's crazy. He says, no one's going to come into the store just because there's a strange and interesting plant in the window. But he's interrupted by a stranger who enters the store to inquire about the strange and interesting plant that's in the window. And this is the first cameo in the movie. Christopher Guest, who was from, Christopher Guest, Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman, Princess Bride. He's wonderful. And he plays this ridiculous plot device character. Like what they need here is for someone to come in and say, that's a very strange and interesting plant. So what he does is he comes in and he says, that's a very strange and interesting plant. And he puts on this absurd voice. Again, they're really leaning into the stereotypes. And he asks Seymour, where did you get the plant? And so Seymour tells him the story, and it plays out as a little musical reenactment. It's a very self-aware little scene. We're going to play it in just a second. And all the characters kind of act out, here's the way it all unfolded. Visually, there's one little special effect to note. He talks about there being a solar, a total eclipse of the sun, and there's a green bolt of lightning that shoots down from the heavens, and that's how the plant appears. It's just a very, very, very simple, cheesy, intentionally cheesy bit of special effects. I did want to call attention to the quote unquote old Chinese man character. There are no racial slurs or anything used in this scene, but there is a little bit of that 1980s, again, quotes in air quotes, Oriental exoticism that's at play here.
Right.
Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon, they wear green silk dresses that are adorned with golden dragons, and the Chinese shopkeeper is dressed in traditional black silk gowns. This is by no means the worst example of that kind of casual 80s racism on film, but I didn't want it to go unmentioned, right? So this is just the little 1 minute long story that Seymour tells this Christopher Guest plot device character about how he found Audrey 2.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
So the stranger hears this story. He's quite intrigued, and he says, I'm going to buy, $100 worth of roses, and everyone's excited. Cue the success montage, right? Suddenly, flowers are being purchased by the armloads, like vintage cash register sales ringing up. Everyone's happy, but the plant starts to droop. The plant starts to droop and wilt, so that the stem, which is kind of like the neck, kind of tips over, and the avocado, which is kind of like the head, just boom, hits the table, just falls right over. Audrey heads out on a date. Mr. Mushnick leaves the shop, but Mr. Mushnick says, Seymour, you have to stay behind, go down to your little apartment in the cellar and nurse this plant back to health. It's so important. Look at all the success we're having. You have to get this plant healthy again. So Seymour mopes his way into the cellar, and he starts lamenting the fact that he has tried everything to get Audrey 2 to grow. And while he's like, talking, I've tried this, I've tried that, he picks up an old plant, picks up some roses on the floor, and he pricks his finger on a thorn. And as he sucks the blood from his finger, the plant starts to mimic his sucking action. And this is the first time that we see any movement from this plant. It's a very small little puppet. Like I said, like the head's about the size of an avocado. Pretty cute. It just sits in its tin can on a pedestal, but it starts making sucking noises. And for the first time, we see the kind of clamshell opening has lips that are pursed. Very interesting. So this is the song Grow for Me that we're going to play. There's a little bit of visual storytelling that takes place in the middle of the song that doesn't have any lyrics to go along with it. Basically, it's a bit of back and forth shtick between Seymour and the plant as Seymour tries to figure out this strange plant behavior. So he moves his bleeding finger closer to the plant, and the plant snaps at it. And then he pulls his finger away, and the plant makes the sucking noises again. He points at the plant with an uninjured finger, no blood on it. The plant turns its head. So there's a bit of a gap in the lyrics in the middle of the song. That's what this is, this kind of back and forth shtick. And then eventually, with a knit brow, at the end of the song, Seymour holds his finger over Audrey 2's open mouth and squeezes a few drops into the hungry plant.
Oh, it's a bloodthirsty plant.
A bloodthirsty plant. So this is Grow for Me.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
Some great lines, and like some of the lyrics are so fantastic. I guess you're not happy unless I open a vein. I mean, come on, such good lyrics. So Seymour drips a few drops of blood into his mouth. We heard that right at the end. The plant has the very contented little sigh, and you can little see the head of the plant relax a little bit. And so when Seymour leaves, goes back upstairs out of the cellar, the plant does indeed grow. It grunts and it pushes kind of as if it's willing itself to get bigger. It's stop action animation here, so it's not like fancy CGI. The growing is a little bit choppy, but it's charming. It looks so tangible. It looks real, like not computer generated. It still feels like practical puppetry. The head grows from like the size of an avocado to the size of a cantaloupe. The leaves get bigger and they unfurl. The roots begin to dent the tin can from the inside, just hinting at the strength of this plant. Very interesting. So the plant has grown a little bit. Seymour starts to become a little bit of a local celebrity, right? He's invited onto Wink Wilkinson's Weird World radio show. And Wink is played by John Candy. So
Oh,
John
yes.
Candy, who like so many cameos. It's like everyone wanted to be in this movie. John Candy, of course, was from SCTV. He had worked with Rick Moranis on SCTV. I think at the same time as he was filming this, they were also filming Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Yeah, it's like he and Steve Martin were already working together. So Wink Wilkinson's Weird World radio show has Seymour on as a guest. And while Seymour is waiting in the waiting room, he's got the plant sitting on his lap. And there's a great puppetry gag in this scene. He's got band-aids on several of his fingers now, and Seymour he's holding this potted Audrey 2 on his lap, the cantaloupe-sized potted plant. And there's a woman in a very tight pencil skirt who's standing next to him, and she bends over a desk. And while Seymour has his head turned, the plant cranes its neck, the stem, and opens its mouth wide, trying to get a bite of this woman's bum. And I'm pretty sure they filmed this using the same puppetry method that they used on stage. So Rick Moranis, as Seymour, is wearing a windbreaker with a fake arm and a fake hand in one of the sleeves. And that fake arm is what's holding the pot. His real arm, hidden by the windbreaker, is going inside the pot underneath and coming up to operate the puppet. It's a great gag. It's, again, very practical puppetry. And it also gives us a really good look inside the plant's mouth for the first time. We see its fleshy, leafy tongue, and it's kind of glistening with spit. I don't know how they did it, but it's really good. So Audrey sadly misses Seymour's big radio broadcast because she's running a little bit late. She's got her arm in a very lacy sling, but she's clearly injured. Mr. Mushnick says to her, "Don't tell me you got tied up." To which she replies, "No, just handcuffed a little." I mean, great lines. Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon, they actually kind of confront her a little bit, not in their role as chorus members, but as their roles in the movie, as just like teenagers on the street. They tell her that her boyfriend is no good. She should have some better self-esteem and she should get herself a nice boyfriend. And they say, "How about that Seymour guy?" And Audrey says, "Oh, no, I don't deserve a nice guy like Seymour." And she goes into her apartment across the street from the flower shop. She goes into her apartment all alone with her arm in this lacy sling, and she hugs her stuffed animal. And then she starts to flip through a 1950s, early 60s Better Homes and Gardens magazine. And she sings about her dream of living somewhere that's green. And this number is a brilliant use of kind of sets and visuals to convey this dream sequence, right? Essentially, the action of this dream sequence scene is Audrey and Seymour interacting with all the things that she's singing about. So as she sings about things, that's kind of what they're doing. But the design, it's lifted straight from the pages of a 1950s Better Homes and Gardens magazine. It's like the ads that are advertising to suburban, women or women who want to be suburban women. It's all pastel colors, fake grass, fake trees. It's a 1950s suburban family fantasy as dreamed up by magazines and sold to housewives. And it's exactly what Audrey dreams of. She's lived her whole life on dreary Skid Row with all of its drab colors, its, gray sidewalks and its red, dirty brick buildings. And she's been pushed around by sleazy, abusive men. And her dream is this full color, shiny, new, clean, and green life, even if it's false. And so we get the visuals that match the dream and contrast quite, it's a rather, severe contrast visually between Skid Row and her dream of somewhere that's green. So that's the next number, Audrey singing Somewhere That's Green.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
Isn't that a lovely song?
Did I notice correctly? Because there's a part where, where they talk about the kids playing Howdy Doody, and they open the door to the kids' bedroom, and
That's right.
And then they open the door to the main bedroom of the house, and they both go in it, but there are two single beds in there.
That's right.
In the old days where husband and wives slept in two single beds side by side.
That's right, because you can't show people sleeping in the same bed.
No,
even if they're married. Yeah. My goodness. Yeah.
Got kids in the next room.
So funny. And like she's dancing around this beautiful like suburban house, like basically fondling a toaster, and like everything in this place.
Modern luxuries of life.
Oh, well, it's just so it's so sweet. And I think she does a great job of, it gets absurd, it's hilarious, but she really cares. Like she's genuinely invested in this fantasy, which is quite a skill as an actor, to both let people have fun and laugh and giggle at the a fence made of real chain link. Like it's so silly, but at the same time it means something to her, and I buy into her. I buy it. Yeah, lovely.
That's what this kind of art does, is as cheesy and as campy and as almost like low budgety as it feels, you buy in.
That's it,
right? It's the beauty of theater and this merging of theater into film.
Totally, absolutely, and you buy right in. So next we get it's a bit of a funny little transition number called Some Fun Now, where Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon, they dance on a rooftop as the chorus. It's kind of an interesting like calypso soul number. It's kind of it's an interesting song, and what they're singing about is Seymour's newfound fame. Like, isn't this fun? It's some fun now. Seymour, meanwhile, is just sitting in his cellar apartment, letting the plant suck on his bleeding fingers. Like that's the good time that Seymour's having, is that he's just feeding this plant his own blood. We then go into we get a shot of the store, and the plant shop is bustling. Audrey, too, the plant has grown. It's now about 5 feet tall, and it's standing in the corner of the shop in a big terracotta pot. The leaves have really grown. Those vines are really spilling over the rim of the pot. They're kind of draped onto the floor. But Seymour, he's having a rough time of it. He's fallen behind on his work because he's woozy from all of the bloodletting. So Audrey tries to help him out, and they have a little bit of a flirty moment together. But when Seymour kind of tries to ask her out a little bit, she tells him that she has another date tonight. And this is when we're introduced to her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is Steve Martin, the dentist. And Steve Martin starts this number driving down the street on his motorcycle. It's like kind of driving straight toward us with the not quite realistic backgrounds of New York City behind him. And he's kind of facing us directly on his motorcycle. He gets off his motorcycle, stares at it so it stops, and then he swaggers into his own office, and he starts torturing his patients. He is such a nasty, over-the-top villain that he punches the nurse. He rips the head off of a little girl's doll who's waiting in the lobby. He climbs onto one of his patients who's sitting in the dentist chair, and climbs onto the patient, and he sticks his pliers in the patient's mouth, and he twists and pulls at his teeth. He sucks on his own laughing gas so that he gets high instead of his patients getting any of the gas. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is outrageous. He's so outrageous and over the top. There's a little bit of a mid-song nod to Elvis and his mama. Because he's a very Elvis-y character. He opens up a closet in the dentist's office, and there's an altar in there to his mother. So he kneels at this candlelit shrine to his mama. It's the whole thing is outrageous. So this is the song "You'll Be a Dentist," and I am still to this day, like since the 1980s, I quote lines from this song. So fantastic. Steve Martin, "You'll Be a Dentist."
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
God, that is absolutely absurd. I'm gonna have to cut this clip and send it to my dentist.
Yeah.
I think you get a kick out of it.
Such a good, like, so ridiculous, so over the top. Oh my God. I imagine Steve Martin just had the time of his life playing this part. Like, it's so ridiculous.
And his facial expressions are huge.
Oh yeah.
And his body language is huge and over the top and absurd, and that's what makes it fun.
That's right. Everything about that, his performance is big. Like you say, big facial expressions, big actions. Everything about this character is completely over the top.
Well, this is what's interesting to me from an acting perspective, is that, you know, it's serious for the character. It's serious for the character, but it's absurd for the actor.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember, like, you know, working with directors and some stuff that I did, and they'd say, go bigger, go bigger, go bigger. And it's like, you don't, because you get to this point where you're so big that you're like, this is absolute, like, what am I doing? This can't possibly be anything that looks real to anybody. But this is the result of go bigger, go bigger, go bigger, right?
That's right. This is as big as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
This is so big.
Yeah.
So this evening, like the evening after this, the dentist comes to pick Audrey up at the shop. This is her date. And Seymour and the audience get to see how poorly he treats her. And I should say, like, these scenes read as a little bit less comical in 2022, right? He's so big, he's so broad, his actions are huge, but he's genuinely awful and abusive toward her. And it's a little bit harder to laugh that off now, you know what I mean? Like, it's not quite as gaggy, but it is what it is. He takes her, he puts her on the back of his motorcycle, and they drive off, and they leave Seymour alone to care for his plant, the Audrey 2. So when Seymour's alone in the shop, he kind of talks to the plant like he talks to a pet, like, oh, you should see the way he treats her, Audrey 2. Oh, it's no good, Tui. He's no good for her. And Seymour turns to leave the shop and say goodnight, turn off the lights and leave the shop. But the plant again droops. But by now, it's big, really big. And it's got the avocado shaped head is now about 4 feet long. And so when it droops and that head hits the floor, it hits the floor with a real thud. The leaves are wilted, and Seymour kind of, oh, please, he begs the plant, please give me a few days to heal. All of his fingertips are covered in Band-Aids. Like, please give me a few days to heal, and then we'll start again on the left hand, he says. Like, he's just feeding this poor plant with his own bloody fingertips. He says, please give me a chance to heal before we start up again. And then he hears this whimper, feed me. And it's the very first time that Seymour and the audience have heard Audrey 2 speak. And Seymour is stunned, even more stunned than we are. The plant starts to speak with this, it's kind of an aggressive, very expressive, deep voice. The voice work for the plant is done by Levi Stubbs. He was one of the 4 tops. Big voice, amazingly expressive. Again, like, talk about going bigger, right? Big voice. And there's this scene where this, like, 4-foot long mouth, this clamshell puppet mouth, starts to sing. In order to do this, they had to use 8 different cables to operate the mouth. Like, the lips move so convincingly. The vines and the giant leaves begin to move like limbs. He gestures with these vines and leaves, like their hands and arms. The plant is able to open and close doors, which is very new. The plant lifts Seymour up, pushes him into a chair, pulls him around the shop. The clamshell head moves in a very expressive way. It doesn't have any eyes, but it moves in such a way that you see a whole face, even though the plant only has a mouth, right? They actually had to shoot this scene in slow motion. They shot it more slowly so that they could make all of the lip movements, and then they sped it up so that they could sync it to Levi Stubbs' singing voice. And what that meant was that Rick Moranis had to do all of his acting in slow motion in order to make it all work. Very tricky to do. Very tricky. So yeah, as part of this song, Audrey too tells Seymour that he needs more food, and what he needs is blood, fresh human blood. And he breaks out into the song "Feed Me." And this is the real turning point in the movie, right? At the start of this song, Seymour is horrified by the notion of seeking out victims, finding sources of blood for this plant. I mean, he's mortified. He can't believe that this is even being asked of him. But I have to say, Audrey too is a very convincing plant. In the middle of the clip that we're going to show, there's a bit of a choppy break. And this is a clip that actually has cut out a very small scene in the middle because it just isn't necessary for the song, but it's important to know what happens. In the middle of this song, there's a little scene where Seymour and the plant look out the window of the shop and they see the dentist bringing Audrey back to her apartment. He screams at her and then he actually slaps her. And this is when the song changes. There's a tonal change in the song, and Seymour changes his mind about finding fresh blood for the growing plant. So this is Audrey 2's first big number, "Feed Me."
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
It's such a determined look on Rick Moranis' face, right? On Seymour's face. Go get it. Yes, I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah, and they're like singing lips to lips, like they're so close together as they're singing, and the plant's mouth is massive. Like,
he could bite half of Seymour's body
easily,
right?
easily.
Yeah.
And they're like right face to face. And again, I keep thinking about trying to film that in slow motion so that they could speed it up. I mean, it's impressive. The puppetry is just it's outstanding. So the next evening at his office, the dentist has a very strange patient to deal with. It's Bill Murray in another ridiculous cameo. So Bill Murray plays a character called Arthur Denton, who's a masochist who loves pain just as much as Steve Martin's dentist loves dishing it out. So apparently this entire scene, the dialogue was improvised. Bill Murray just gleefully climbs into Steve Martin's dentist chair and starts, he said, "Oh, you're so good at your job. I love your professionalism." Meanwhile, Steve Martin is diving into his mouth with increasingly vicious looking stainless steel torture devices. And Murray just takes this very perverse sexual pleasure from the drill and the pliers and Steve Martin's aggression. It's again, like so over the top. Steve Martin eventually catches on to the fact that Bill Murray isn't being tortured. He's actually getting off on his root canal. So he kicks him out of the office. And as he's kicking him out of the office, Steve Martin discovers that Seymour is in the otherwise empty lobby. This was his last appointment of the day, but Seymour is there. And so you know, the dentist is eager to get back to the torturing to kind of prove to himself that he's the manly torturer. So he shoves Seymour into the dental chair, and he says, you know what, I'm gonna this is a special occasion, I am gonna put on my special gas mask. And it's not for Seymour, it's for him. He wants the gas, so he puts on this scuba tank style laughing gas mask. It's clearly not approved by the American Dental Association.
Yeah.
It's this like this whole, it's a, you know, tanks on the back and the hoses that come right to his mouth. And so with the dentist distracted, Seymour jumps out of the dental chair and pulls out a gun. And the dentist sees him standing there with the gun, and he can't stop laughing because he's got this laughing gas tank on. So he says, hold on, give me a second. I'm just going to turn off my laughing gas. He reaches behind him to turn off the tank, and he accidentally pulls off the knob. And he falls to the floor, suffocating, and begs Seymour to help him while laughing, but Seymour won't help him. And so the dentist is like lying on the floor, suffocating to death with laughing gas. And he says, what did I ever do to you? And Seymour says, nothing. It's what you did to her. And Seymour lowers the gun, and the dentist suffocates to death. So Seymour drags the dentist's wrapped body through the dark late night streets of Skid Row, and they make it very, very comical, where he's bonking him. He lets him slip down a flight of stairs. He bonks the body into the curb. It's like he's already got rigor mortis, like it's already a stiff body wrapped up. He pulls the body into an alley behind the plant shop, and he starts chopping up the body with an axe. I mean, very, very horrible, terrible imagery, or it could be terrible imagery, but the way they film it is they only film it in shadows. So you don't see lots of blood. You don't see the axe, you know, actually hitting the body. It's all done in very B-movie shadows. But it just so happens that Mr. Mushnick comes to the shop that night, and he sees Seymour chopping up this dentist's body in the back alley. So he's so horrified that he runs away, and he runs away too early, and he doesn't actually see that Seymour has chopped up the body to feed the limbs to Audrey too. So he doesn't see that part. And the next morning, Seymour awakens to hear two detectives across the street interviewing Audrey. And when the cops leave, he runs across the street and he asks Audrey, what is it all about? And Audrey tells him that her boyfriend, the dentist, is missing, and that the police fear the worst. And at first, she's terribly upset. She runs to an abandoned lot filled with piles of brick and crumbling walls, so she can have a really good cry. It's funny, this little set kind of reminded me a little bit of West Side Story. There's something about the theatricality of the set, the crumbling brick buildings. Audrey's there crying, and Seymour runs after her, and he says, like, it's okay, but she's so upset because she feels guilty, because she kind of wished that something terrible would happen to her abusive boyfriend. And Seymour tells her not to worry, don't be sad, because he is going to stand with her, he is going to stand beside her. And they break into the song Suddenly Seymour. And one of the things I love about this particular version of this kind of song, because this song where the nerd who has just been a friend, who finally stands up and kind of declares his love, we see this a fair bit. But it's often the case that nerds and dorks in movies and TV are played by beautiful movie stars. They just put glasses on them, and we're all supposed to pretend that they're the
girl
dorks.
next door, or
Exactly.
The ugly duckling that turns into the swan.
Totally. And so when they have these moments of heroism or these bursts of self-esteem or whatever, it falls a bit flat. But not here, because here Rick Moranis is a lovable dork, and he looks like a dork, like he really is. He's shorter than Ellen Greene, who plays Audrey. He's kind of cute, but she's gorgeous, and she's dressed up in her own tardy little way, and he's kind of wearing a rumpled blue dress shirt. Her breasts are pushed up to here, but he's slouching, arms awkwardly hanging at his side. She's got this big booming Broadway voice, and as you noted, he's just a nice little singer, right? So when he declares his love and promises to stand by her, it really means something, because he really is this kind of softer, quieter, smaller guy. And when they, at the end of the song, when they finally kiss, they have this long, hard, and passionate kiss at the end. It really does feel triumphant, right? It's not that like, it's not the pretend dork who's really a gorgeous guy that we kind of knew all along was, gorgeous and capable. It really feels like he's standing up for himself and he's putting himself out there, and she accepts him and loves him. So that's the song Suddenly Seymour that we'll play for you now.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
So Seymour virtually floats home after this first kiss with Audrey, right? He just is so happy. He goes down to his cellar apartment, flops onto his cot, but Mr. Mushnick steps out of the shadows and confronts him. He saw Seymour chopping up the dentist's body, and he pulls out a gun and he says, "I'm going to turn you in. I'm going to turn you into the cops." Upstairs, hearing this, Audrey too listens in and starts singing the song Supper Time. It's a slow, sultry, kind of suspenseful song. And then the chorus takes over the song when Mr. Mushnick gets upstairs so that Mr. Mushnick doesn't see the plant singing, right? Mr. Mushnick is nudging Seymour toward the door, gun at his back. He's going to take him to the cops, but wait a minute, maybe hold on, he says. Maybe I've got an idea, he says. "Maybe I can do you a favor," Mr. Mushnick says, "because you've always been like a son to me." He says, "I won't turn you into the cops. Maybe you should just leave town for like 30 or 40 years. Leave the plant to me. Just leave me with your gardening tips and all will be well. You just leave me the plant and you go away and all will be well." Seymour is unsure about this, but he starts stepping away from the door. And as he steps away from the door, what he's really doing is backing Mr. Mushnick up toward the plant, toward Audrey too, who very quietly opens his massive mouth, showing off its yellow, ragged, shark-like teeth and its giant, wet pink tongue. And at the very last minute, Mr. Mushnick turns around, sees the plant opening its mouth, and he says, "What the hell?" And at that moment, Audrey too chomps down, swallowing him whole as Seymour cowers in the corner. Mr. Mushnick is plant food. Next, we get a montage of Seymour's continued success. He meets with TV executives, he signs contracts, he gets on the covers of magazines. Seymour gets a gardening show on TV. Crowds are swarming the flower shop, but he personally is completely overwhelmed. And during a live TV shoot at the flower shop, Audrey too collapses. And again, Audrey too has grown. Audrey too is enormous now, completely fills the entire corner of the shop. It's grown all the way to the ceiling. The vines are long and winding. The leaves are lush, purple and green. What's interesting is they actually used the same basic puppet as they had been using for Feed Me, but they just added more leafy material. And instead of making the puppet bigger, they made the set smaller. Yeah, it's brilliant. And they exaggerated the angles of the ceilings and the walls, and they filmed the plant from below, not straight on. So they kind of force the perspective, and they create the optical illusion that the plant's now 14 feet tall. So Audrey too collapses and wilts. The TV crew tells Seymour he should feed it, but of course Seymour can't. He panics, he refuses. And he runs into the alley, and Audrey follows him and tells him that he should be happy. Don't worry about the TV show, she says. The crew's going to come back tomorrow. They'll give you a big check and all will be well. And then Seymour gets an idea. He's going to get money tomorrow. So he says, "Let's get married tonight, Audrey. And then tomorrow we'll take that money and we'll run away together." So Audrey says yes, and they hurry off in separate directions so that they can go and get ready. And that night, Seymour tries to sneak out of the shop past the plant, but Audrey too hears him and stops him and starts begging for food. Seymour refuses to provide another body, but agrees to go to the butcher's shop and get him some meat. And the plant pretends to agree to this, but while Seymour is out, he uses one of his vines to take a dime from the cash register and make a call on the payphone. And who he calls is Audrey at her apartment across the street.
No.
And he tells Audrey who it is. And when she looks out her window through the store window, she sees Audrey too, the plant, holding the phone, laughing. She's so stunned, she's so disturbed, she runs across the street wearing her white wedding dress, and she meets Audrey too, really, for the first time. And the plant starts to beg her in this really kind of sleazy and suggestive way, groping her with vines and tendrils. He begs her for water, says he needs to be fed. And so when she reluctantly turns to get the watering can, the plant grabs her and pulls her into his mouth. And at this very moment, Seymour returns and he finds Audrey's legs hanging from the plant's mouth. He grabs her feet, he pulls her out, he frees her, and together they run from the shop. They run into the alleyway. And Seymour sort of confesses here, right? He doesn't confess to taking part in the deaths of the dentist or Mr. Mushnick, but he does admit to knowing that the plant was murderous, and he bemoans the fact that it's all gotten out of hand. He says he only did it so that he could be successful, so that Audrey would love him. And Audrey tells him that she would love him no matter what. And they start to reprise Suddenly Seymour, and then a salesman runs in, and it's Jim Belushi, another cameo. And he's got an idea. He says, let's take clippings of Audrey 2 and we'll sell the seedlings all across America. Just imagine an Audrey 2 in every home in all across America, even the world. And Seymour is mortified by this. Audrey says, no, it can't happen. So Seymour chases off the salesman and he declares that he must put an end to this once and for all. So he strides into the shop to confront Audrey too. But the plant quickly takes control, pushes Seymour, shoves him with his vines. He slaps him around. Seymour tries to get a gun. The plant takes it and shoots at him instead. Seymour grabs an axe, but the plant manages to dodge the axe. Not only that, the plant, Audrey too, has grown more dangerous. He reveals that he's got like a series of melon-sized Audrey 2 sucker plants growing on his vines. So he's got another dozen little mouths with wagging tongues and rows of sharp teeth growing on his vines. And they're the ones that sing backup in this song, not the chorus. It's his sucker heads. And this is the massive puppet. This is where there are 60 puppeteers operating one puppet. It's just outrageous. Audrey 2 uses its vines to trap Seymour, to pull down the walls and the support posts in the building. And he starts to tear the whole shop apart, making everything come crashing down on Seymour. So this is Audrey 2's, great big number at the end of the song, at the end of the movie, Mean Green Mother. It's called Mean Green Mother.
Due to copyright restrictions, excerpts of this presentation have not been recorded. Please check below for more information, including links to the material if it is hosted elsewhere.
Bye-bye, Seymour! So I'm hearing a lot of crashing going around in that song. What's happening with all those crashing noises, JJ?
Yeah, so the plant, smashes its vines all over the store. So uses one vine to kind of like chop down on the counter, so the counter explodes. Then starts punching through walls, grabbing onto to the beams that hold up the roof, and he does pull using all of his vines that are grabbing onto pipes and studs and posts, pulls the entire building down so that it comes crashing down just on poor Seymour. And it looks like Seymour's gone. Seymour's just he ends up lying in this pile of rubble, and it looks like the plant has won. But then Seymour's hand emerges from the rubble holding a severed electrical wire, and he reaches out and he stabs one of Audrey 2's flailing vines with the frayed wire, and the giant man-eating plant starts to rumble, and it gets covered in these blue lightning bolts, and it belts out a very stunned, "Oh shit!" And then it explodes like a firework. and the entire plant just bursts into like really little tiny particles, completely destroys the Audrey 2. Meanwhile, in the alley, Audrey 1, the human, real Audrey, peeks out from behind a crumbling brick wall. The shop has been reduced to rubble and smoke. There's nothing left, apparently, and she slowly steps forward, her eyes filled with tears, when suddenly Seymour emerges from the rubble, and they beam and they hug and they kiss and they run to suburbia. And we cut to a clean new couple, like they're wearing clean new wedding clothes, and they run across the fake green lawn of Audrey's fantasy home, and they run inside the house. And as they go inside to their, their place somewhere that's green, Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon, the chorus, they kind of walk across the lawn wearing pink bridesmaids dresses. But then in the flower bed of the house, somewhere that's green, there's a little tiny plant, a little tiny Audrey 2, that turns to us and smiles. And that's the end of the movie. So they get their house somewhere that's green. They get to live their fantasy life. They think they've destroyed their plant, but a little one still exists in their flower bed in their suburban fantasy home.
Sounds like there should have been a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of left it a little bit open. And it's a now the story of the ending of this movie is kind of legendary. Have you heard anything about the alternate ending for this?
No, not at all.
So the original play didn't end like that at all. And originally the movie didn't end like that either. The movie originally, and the original play, ends with the plant completely winning. The plant eats Audrey. The plant eats Seymour. And the salesman takes cuttings of the plant and sells them all across the country to frenzied shoppers. And they actually filmed an entirely different ending to this movie. They shot a 5-minute long climax for this film using miniatures with live action footage kind of spliced together. And it's a squad of giant Audrey 2s, giant monstrous plants attacking New York City. It's a full 5-minute monster movie rampage. They climb skyscrapers, they eat subways, they tear down the Brooklyn Bridge, they even climb the Statue of Liberty. It was this epic ending. The scene cost $5 million,
which was a lot in 1986.
Yeah. It's like $13 million today. It was the most expensive scene in the most expensive film that the studio had ever made. But the test audiences hated it. They hated it. So they canned it. They didn't even use it. They rewrote the ending that we just described. They reshot it and they released it like that. So no one for decades knew about this alternate ending. And then in 2012, for the DVD release, they finally, because rumors had started to spread and they had put like they had talked about the original ending. So for the 2012 DVD release, they restored the unused footage and released it as a bonus. And you can now find it on YouTube. It's this 5-minute epic. It's just crazy that they would film such an incredible ending and not even use it. It's wild.
That is pretty wild. It sounds to me like it's right out of like a Godzilla movie, right? Or like
that's exactly right.
Or thinking about all the references: Godzilla, King Kong, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yes,
right? They all are like destroying, big cities and yeah.
You've got it. Nail on the head, Amy. That's exactly the thing. They go and they get it. Like they actually even have like the army come in and they're firing their weapons at one of these Audrey 2s climbing the Statue of Liberty. There's a helicopter flying overhead. It's lifted straight from those monster movie classics, like King Kong climbing the Empire State Building. Except here, it's the Statue of Liberty. Yeah. So I mean, amazing. And you said the sequel. It's funny. They haven't been talk of a sequel that I've heard, but there has been talk of a remake. Have you heard of this
No.
potential remake? So in 2016, in the before times, the studio announced that they were in negotiations to make a remake, and they had Taron Egerton, I believe is his name, the guy who played Elton John in the movie Rocket Man.
Yes.
So he was cast as Seymour.
Mm-hmm.
Scarlett Johansson, like
Mm-hmm.
Black Widow, she was cast as Audrey. And the dentist, which is a role I'm sure like so many Hollywood's like actors, anyone who can sing would want that role. Chris Evans, Captain America himself, was
Wow.
cast as the dentist, but then COVID hit and the whole movie just got put on hold, and maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. And at this point, they say it's indefinitely on hold. So I don't know if they're ever going to come back with a remake, but it's kind of hard to beat this one. This one's beautiful. The puppetry, the singing, the actors, it's just wonderful.
It's true. Sometimes when you do, like when we did Rocky Horror Picture, I can't imagine a remake of that.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
rival the original, theatrics.
Exactly.
The whole
And
thing.
the temptation these days would be to redo all of that actual genuine puppetry with CGI, which would be a real downer. It would be a real shame. The puppetry makes it, like, it really does make it real. It makes it theatrical. It makes it special.
Yeah.
That puppet at the end with all of those, the whole chorus of mouths coming off of one puppet, 60 puppeteers, huge mouth. This is just outrageous. It's so fantastic.
I love it. I love the tropes. I love the puppetry. I love the over the topness of it. It's my jam. I got to see if I can find that DVD somewhere with the extended or the alternate ending.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I think we might be able to find it on YouTube and pass it around. Maybe we can can add that to. Yeah, I mean, and some of the lyrics. I mean, some of the lyrics in those songs are just so good. Like what was the line? I've got serious reservations. He's being asked. Seymour's being asked to murder people, and he's like, I don't know. I've got reservations
about mutilation.
Yeah. These lines are so good. They last and last and last.
Do you know who wrote the music?
That's a good question. I didn't recognize the name. It wasn't a Broadway name that I knew. I don't have it at the off the top of my on the top of my tongue here. But yeah, I it was originally, like I said, this very strange little 1960 black and white movie, not a musical at all, just a B movie about a plant. And then it kind of got changed and twisted into the 1980 or 82 off-Broadway play, and that's when the musical element comes in. So that's when they wrote.
So it was
all
a movie,
this stuff.
then it was a play, then it was this movie.
That's right. Movie,
okay.
then a musical, then a Broadway musical, and then this movie of the musical. Yeah, I mean, it's got quite a history. Oh, great. We've got lyricist Howard Ashman, composer Alan Menken. I believe that's Donna dropping that in. Thank you, Donna.
Wonderful, Donna. This is why we have our talented VocalEye team in the background, eavesdropping on everything we've said, which is lovely. They don't require blood to sustain it.
So, you don't have to feed little drops of blood to Donna to get. Oh, and apparently Donna's telling me that Alan also did The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas. So clearly, this is a composer that should be known. And I'm just I'm just in the I'm in the dark on this one. I didn't know this guy. It was just amazing. I mean, what a set of numbers. And look at that. That's a heck of a list. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas. That's wild.
Certainly had a good relationship with Disney, I guess, to be brought back over and over and over to do these different musicals. Friends in our audience, if you got questions or stories that you want to share about your experience with Little Horror, We already have hands. I don't even have to. Words don't even have to come out of my mouth. Please stick around because we're gonna do 4, 5, maybe 6 prize draws tonight. So stick in the space with us. Okay, we're gonna go to. I just put my magnification on here so I can actually read names. Tammy, we got Tammy first, and then we've got Lori up next. So Tammy, why don't you go ahead and unmute?
Hi, very good description. Really enjoyed that.
Cheers.
I just wanted to say that, there are a lot of parallels to Frankenstein. I don't know. I don't know if you think that, or, what your thoughts are on that, but I mean, not everything, but there certainly are, like this
Yeah.
sort of creature that kind of develops and becomes, uncontrollable, and, yeah. So I don't know. I was just really struck by that
Yeah.
when I was listening to this. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I mean, of course, more comical, and than if you read Frankenstein. But I just, yeah, the parallel was just very interesting to me.
Yeah, they definitely draw on the B movie horror stuff, like the Godzilla and the King Kong, and at the end of the movie, and yeah, all of these kind of B movie tropes, the monster movie tropes, even references in the final song. He says something about forget about the Black Lagoon. I come from outer space. Is he singing about that? That's a specific restaurant reference to the creature from the Black Lagoons. All of these classic horror stories
Right.
and horror films get pulled in and referenced in this film. Absolutely.
Yeah, just interesting. Yeah.
That's a
Anyway,
great
no, but I thought it was
Good
really
observation, Tammy.
great. Yeah, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I thought the music was great. Really like all of those Second City, SCTV people as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that this movie was so well acted, in terms of just well represented by such great talent. I really didn't know that. So that's
Yeah,
also
just
great to know.
packed with
either.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And very 80s as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the 80s take on the 60s music. I always like that when one era does another era, and then you get a little bit of distance from it. Now we can hear both the 80s and the 60s in those songs. Yeah, very,
so
very
thank
fun.
Thank you for a great description.
Oh, thank you, Tammy.
Okay, then we've got Lori, then we've got Louise, then we've got Kilo, and then we've got Megan. So that's our order. So go ahead, Lori.
I'm curious, how could they build that big of a puppet to have all those people use to control it, would be my question.
Yeah, it's quite something. So a lot of that, so when you're talking about 60 people, like 60 puppeteers being, operating this one puppet, it's not that they're all inside of it. So some would be using cables, some would be on ropes, some would be hanging overhead, some would be off on the sides. So there's lots of different roles and places for those puppeteers, but it is an enormous task. Just the lips alone. I think I read 8 operators just for the lips.
Just for the lips?
Just for the lips. There were 8 people required to operate the lips by the time it got its biggest, and it's singing full songs. I mean, it's incredible. The details.
I wonder how long it took them to build that thing.
Yeah,
it was.
It must have been an enormous task. And I've never seen it live on stage. I would love to, because I mean, obviously they can't, this is the greatest version. This is the biggest, most intricate version of this puppet. But when you see this play performed on stage, they still have to have a giant puppet that's big enough that it can eat a character. So they actually have to have a plant that's big enough that it can swallow a person on stage. And for a theater with a modest budget, that's difficult to
Probably
create.
why it hasn't been around for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
It would eat up the whole stage.
It would be big, and you'd have to have enough space underneath the stage to be operating. You'd have to have a raised stage with trap doors underneath. It's quite a piece of puppetry engineering for sure.
Just think of trying to fill that thing, Amy. It would take us forever.
That's a whole other set of artistry to put together these puppets.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, JJ.
Cheers.
Thanks, Laurie. All right, Louise, and then Tilo after Louise.
Okay, I'm going to take it a different little way, but I loved the music. The music was what got me tonight. Thank you for your explanations before we went into a lot of it. But I'll tell you, my two favorite songs, I'm sorry. The first one was when Audrey was singing by herself when she was in her home. I think that song just hit my heart.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to sit there and say, well, that's our favorite song of the thing. Well, in a way, it makes you feel that who she is as a person, Audrey won.
Yeah.
It makes you feel her and what she wants out of life. But the second song I love the most, and I'm afraid of it. I hate dentists, so I was laughing so hard through the dentistry one. I'm like, that dentist will never touch my mouth. Even on stage. I was laughing.
Yeah,
that song just had me when they were smashing and doing things in dentistry that that's why I don't go to a dentist, sorry.
That's fantastic.
I'm sorry. It just, it's that's a horror of a dentist. I'm sorry. It's just, it just makes me laugh. I'm sorry. It just
Yeah, and then the music is just so wonderful, and I'm with you. Like that the song that Audrey sings, she really opens up. It is so very personal, and then they've got these outrageous songs with the massive comedy and absurdity, and actually the Mean Green Mother, that song at the end was nominated for an Academy Award. It was nominated for best song at the Oscars. A little bit of trivia: that was the first song ever nominated for best song at the Oscars that had swearing in it, because the plant uses a few mild curse words in there, and that was the first song ever. You can find on YouTube. They often have all the singers come on and they sing a few verses, or they perform each number, and that's the only time you'll get to see it performed by Levi Stubbs of the Four Tops in person, wearing a purple I think it's a purple sparkly dinner jacket or something like that. I also wanted to point out that Marianne has noted in the chat that they have seen this play live, and have been swallowed by the plant. Were you actually swallowed by the plant, Marianne, or did you just see someone being swallowed by the plant? That's amazing.
No, I was actually swallowed by the plant.
What?
Yes. Family Theater Company did Little Shop several years ago. It's worth looking online for the YouTube clips and so on and so forth for Family Theater Company, spelled PHAMALY. But yes, by the time the plant was the biggest, it was the size of a Volkswagen. It was huge.
Wow.
And it was in a theater in the Round, and one of the VOMs for getting onto the stage was Audrey's home at the end, and it just literally took up the entire VOM. And when you got swallowed by the plant, the whole inside on the bottom was this platform with rollers and stuff like that, and there were puppeteers that manually controlled the rollers as you got swallowed by the plant.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It went from this tiny little plant, and yes, the puppetry live is amazing. And what's even more cool is that this was one of the first shows where Family actually needed puppeteers, and they brought in some very, very famous, apparently, puppeteers who trained disabled actors to be puppeteers to manage to do different parts of Audrey.
Wow.
because there's at the different stages, Audrey was tiny enough for in Seymour's hand.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, the one with the, where there's the fake hand that, that is out
Yes,
there,
that's
but
right,
the one
yeah.
hand that holds the plant is like the second size of the plant. And I want to say there was either 6 or 7 versions of Audrey in the show. And by the time it was up to like the 3rd size, there were several puppeteers that were trained to make the roots dance and the mouth work and all these different things. I don't remember how many there were in the end, because there definitely were puppeteers still controlling the whole thing in the end. And in the end, it's extremely dark. But the cool thing that I enjoyed about it is that in the end, like all of the cast members were essentially Audrey little suckers, and they came down through the audience, and they wore these like long hooded cape things with these vines, and they were streaming down through the audience like they were about to wind up the audience. And then at some point they sprang vines from all around the outside of the theater, and they dropped on the top people in the balcony.
Very cool.
It was the coolest effect stuff ever.
Nice. Like
that
audience
totally involved the
forcing
audience,
some
who
audience
nobody knew except
participation.
our group, because we had done a tour. We did an accessible tour, so we got told that the audience was going to be eaten by the plant.
Yeah.
But nobody
That's
else
wonderful.
knew. So the whole theater, when the vines dropped on the people on top, everybody else was like, ah! And like freaking out, and we were all like, this is the one time blind people had the advantage. It was so good.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Marianne. That's cool.
Yeah, it was super cool, and people that I knew got to learn to be the puppeteers for Audrey, and have gone on to do other puppetry stuff since then.
Wonderful.
Very cool.
All right, we got a whole list of hands here, JJ. So let's go to Tilo, and then Megan, you'll be up after Tilo. I'll give Tilo a moment to unmute.
Hello.
Oh, we gotcha.
Yes. I've heard of this film before, and I knew it was also a play before, but I've never seen it. I think I fell in love with this.
Aw.
Right on.
It's so outrageous. And you know what I find that works for this is each character, their voice is so different from everything else that you can pick them out no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the characters I fell in love with was actually the plant when he first started to speak, to feed me.
Yeah.
I started to laugh. Because also the voice, the deep voice and the phrasing he does.
Yeah.
And how he sings, it just blew me away, and I started to laugh.
It's so wonderful and so rich. His voice is so
Yes.
So here's my little confession. When I was a teenager and I saw this movie for the first time, I really liked the name Seymour, and I was a big Rick Moranis fan. I had an orange cat, and I named my cat Seymour.
Awesome.
Kind of after Rick Moranis in this film. And I think one of the reasons I did it was so that every time I went to feed the cat, I could say, "Feed Miss Seymour," which wasn't actually accurate, but I did it anyway. And
Yeah, I know.
crazy.
It's fun, of course. Oh, that's
Love that.
cute.
That's
I think
awesome.
I'll have to find this film and watch everything.
Over and over and over again,
yeah,
right?
for
I
sure.
think so.
It's worth it.
Oh my God. I want to see more of this.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Megan, you're up. And then after Megan, we'll do Rita, then Barbara.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
my gosh. I
Megan.
love the whole thing. The dentist part, I'm thinking, oh man, if he had my mouth, I'd be holding this. I'd be holding my little anxiety oil. I'd be like this. I'm like rolling it.
Yeah, it's pretty creepy.
Oh, see what I mean? I mean, like I'm taking this off and rolling it. Oh, I'm like, okay, keep calm. I know it's gonna hurt. Yeah, I know. Like usually I get sedated, my anxiety gets really high. I go like, I'm like, okay. like no pill, no sedation, like way too high. I'm like, I'm like rolling it like this, like all the time. He does this. I'm like,
It certainly is going to make us think twice the next time we go to a dentist, right, Megan?
yeah. But my
Yeah, you
dentist
do.
thankfully doesn't act like what he did there. No, he is not torture. It's like sedation. You know, done. Oh, I was like, yay. But no, not like the other dentist. Oh.
It does make you, I do wonder, like, how many dentists, like Amy, you were talking about sending that clip to your dentist. I wonder, like, how many of them secretly love this song, you know, like how many dentists know of it, love it, how many dentists know of it and are like, oh man, this makes us look awful. I mean, it's such a fun and playful song. I imagine a lot would kind of lean into it a little bit, you know, enjoy
I would hope
silliness.
so. I would hope that they'd be able to see it for what it is as opposed to the scare factor of it, but
Exactly. I hope so.
who knows? Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Megan. Let's go to Rita next, and then Barbara after Rita.
Okay. Okay, a few things. I love this, and I had my doubts. I don't really go for horror things and stuff like that. But first of all, I love the music. And JJ, I loved your enthusiasm. The way that you were describing things, it was great. I really loved that.
Thank you.
So so that was, you know, that was a huge bonus, you know. So but one other thing I wanted to say was, did you notice that the plant has a black accent as opposed to you know, so how much of it, because you did mention something about, you know, the only 3 black people in the whole thing were the Greek chorus.
Yeah.
But the plant, who's faceless at least, was definitely a black person.
That's
you know,
right.
I mean,
yeah.
the accent. So how intentional was it? But it was, I love the plant. I love the plant singing and everything. But I was just wondering how intentional you thought it was.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good, I mean, good ear. It is, I wanted, when I was describing that at the beginning, to choose my words carefully, because those were the chorus were the only 3 people of color that we saw. Those are the only 3 people that appear as actors in the film. And then the only other person of color who's got a lead part it's only their voice. So yeah, and it's a famous voice, right? Like he's one of the 4 tops. And so it's decidedly the characterization is you know, definitely leaning into that voice, leaning into the that Motown sound, right? But it is not a character that we get to see as a black character, even though the voice is being performed by a black man. So it's unfortunate in a way. I mean, obviously you can't, it's not going to be done. You're not going to see the black actor who's performing it. It's a puppet. That's how that works. But it is unfortunate that it's the only lead person of color, and you don't get to see them. They're not playing themselves. They're only being represented by this puppet avatar.
It opens up a whole question about representation.
It definitely does. It absolutely does. You know, in that opening scene when you're on Skid Row and you get all the different voices from the community. Yeah, there are people of color in that scene. There are lots, but not leads, not speaking parts. It's only the chorus and the voice of Seymour. Yeah. Or pardon me, of Audrey too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rita.
Good point, Rita.
Okay, we got Barbara, then we've got Karim.
Hi, I'm from New York, so I saw this off Broadway like 40 years ago.
Oh,
and with Ellen Green, and she was amazing.
Oh.
And the puppet was the Plant was more like, if I remember right, like a Muppet kind of thing. And at the end of the curtain call, they come out and there's a little midget guy who's playing the puppet, and they wear t-shirts, and then this huge black guy plays the voice. So the guy playing Audrey too, the puppet guy, is wearing a little t-shirt and he's saying plant, and then the huge guy has a voice on his t-shirt, it says voice instead
That's
of
fantastic.
yeah.
Wow. So you got to see this was the off-Broadway, the first
yeah, it was
off-Broadway
off-Broadway.
production?
Yeah.
That's
And Ellen
amazing.
Green is so fabulous. And I remember afterwards watching, and she came on the Tonight Show and she sang Suddenly Seymour, which I love that song. And I
Yeah.
also think that if you listen to the music of Somewhere That's Green, it kind of, some of it is similar to stuff from like Little Mermaid, when Little Mermaid sings.
Oh, interesting.
If you just listen to the music part, it kind of reminded me when it was like, I said, God, that sounds familiar. And then all of a sudden I forgot that Alan Menken wrote the music. And it's like, yeah, that does sound like a little bit from Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that now.
Yeah, but thank you. You did a great job, and I love coming to these things, Amy. They're just great. And it's after midnight here, so I have to go to sleep soon.
Enjoy Tomorrowland.
Yes, thank you.
Have a wonderful day, Barbara.
Thanks.
Okay, let's go, Karim.
Okay, hi guys. Hi Amy. Hi JJ.
Hello.
That's a great idea to send that video clip of Steve Martin playing the dentist to my dentist.
I'm telling you, I'm going to do it.
I forgot the name of that song. What is it again?
You'll Be a Dentist.
You'll Be a Dentist. Okay, because when I go to my dentist, I hate going to. Okay, I'll give you a little bit. It's a lady. I hate going to her, and when I'm on the chair, I call it her house of pain. And I told her, like, if you ever quit being a dentist, you'll be a good dominatrix.
Well, that's it. They lean into that so well in this, that kind of like the leather bound motorcycle, leather jacket and motorcycle riding, torturing soul. And the idea that like this is just how he's built. He's just a natural torturer. So his mother says, you know what you should do? Go be a dentist. Like, what a fantastic thought.
Yeah. So it's I'm a dentist, or go be a dentist.
Awesome.
What's the name of the song again, JJ?
You'll Be a Dentist.
You'll Be a Dentist.
You'll Be a Dentist. Yeah. And otherwise she's a very sweet person.
That's right.
I'm sure that we can circulate these links because we have the links, so we can probably circulate them in the follow-up email.
Okay.
Awesome. Your thoughts and your comments, Krim. Ooh, this has been a really exciting Halloween episode. As Halloween is right around the corner, I still submit that we need to do Sweeney Todd next year if we still are doing these online platforms. I also want to do things like Grease. That would be a lot of fun to do Grease. There's so many of these that I think are especially the musicals, but that are, I don't know, part of our cultural fabric, I guess.
Yeah. And
oftentimes people are talking about these and referencing them. And it's like, if you've never seen them, you're like, well, yeah, I kind of know, but I don't really know. And I just tried to find the DVD director's cut while we were waiting here, and it says currently unavailable. So I don't know that's going to come delivered to me anytime soon. But before we say,
I do love this way to explore musicals and to describe them. I think it's such a great format for us to be able to describe them scene by scene and then let the music play. And you start, when the more of these we do, they kind of the knowledge feeds on itself. So the more we describe what these Broadway chorus numbers look like and how they feed into each other, and like you say, the literacy around musicals continues to grow. So good on you guys. I love that you guys are so keen on these musicals at VocalEye. They're just so wonderful.
If we ever get to do Grease, I'll tell you a story about, because I stage managed for Grease in my stage managing days.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So I there's a whole bunch of like things that the behind the stage managers and all the text, all the little tricks we used to play on the actors, which we thought were hilarious, and I'm sure they didn't appreciate, but we were hilarious. Anyway, so that's a story for another day, friends. But before we say officially goodbye and good night and good morning to you, JJ, because it's tomorrow for you, we got a couple of prizes to give away, some Halloween-centered prizes. So I'm going to bring Donna in. Oh, there's Donna. Donna just magically appears. And JJ, you've done this 100 times before. We got four prizes to give out. So we're going to pull four names. That means you got to come up with 4 words.
4 words?
4 words,
All right.
JJ.
Okay, we ready?
I am ready. All right. I'm gonna spotlight you again. There you go. And then I
Okay.
will add my spotlight. Okay. So 4, you said, Amy?
4.
Okay. Here we go, JJ, whenever you're ready.
First one we'll go with feed me.
Feed me.
We will feed Pierre.
Pierre! Yay! Congratulations, Pierre's won a raffle prize.
All right.
And the next one, how about reservations?
Reservations. Ruth has no reservations about winning a prize.
Awesome. Ruth, congratulations.
And of course, we've got to follow that with mutilation.
There will be no mutilation of Diana tonight. She just gets a prize. And last one.
Oh, what can I do for the last one? I just got to go with dentist.
Dentist. Lori is heading to the dentist.
Awesome.
Awesome. Hopefully your dentist isn't a masochist, Lori. There you go. That was fun, friends. I really enjoyed that, JJ. I enjoyed having you in the space. Apologies again for my camera not functioning properly, but you were all able to enjoy my lovely yellow, the YouTube channel is going to love this, right? The yellow screen. With that, my friend, I look forward to seeing you the next time you're in the space.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on, Amy. Always a pleasure to do these with you.
Awesome. Anytime. You're welcome back anytime, but I think you know that already.
Thank you, JJ.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, JJ.
Thanks.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.